Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Geordie Pride. Today we've got a truly special guest who brings the culture of the Northeast to life through her words and her stories. Joining us in this episode is a lady called Sue Reid. Now Sue was not born in the Northeast, but she's lived here since the 1980s and she's raised her family here, so she is a true adopted Geordie. She's an author whose work is deeply rooted in the landscape of Northumberland, and her latest book, The Rewilding of Molly McFlynn, is a wonderful testament to her love for the region. It's set against the backdrop of Northumberland's breathtaking scenery, and not only does her writing paint a vivid picture of life in the Northeast, but it really captures the essence of its people and its history as well. In today's episode, we're going to dive into Sue's journey as an author, and we're going to explore how her experiences and the landscapes of the Northeast have shaped her writing. We'll also get a glimpse into the creative process behind the rewilding of Molly McFlynn, and we get some sneaky little snippets of what's going to be happening to Molly in the future. Now, since this interview, I have ordered a signed copy of the book from Sue herself for both me and my daughters, and I have actually sneakily started reading it before my kids, and it is so good. I would really recommend it. It's really captivating, and Sue is such a beautiful storyteller, so grab a one if you can. But before we dive in, there are some, again, slight sound quality issues, which I can only presume is the witchy spirits that we do talk about in this episode, or it could be my lack of audio capability, so who knows. But either way, hope it's not too distracting from this wonderful conversation with another amazing lady. So let's get started. You're listening to Geordie Pride, Voices from the Northeast. I'm Hayley, and alongside my cousin Angela, we're thrilled to bring you the stories that share the heart and soul of the Northeast of England. Each episode, we'll dive into the lives of extraordinary Geordies and those who call the Northeast home, exploring their journeys and celebrating their achievements. From the time to the teas, from the arts to the sports fields, we're here to share the tales of passion, resilience, and of course, Geordie Pride. So whether you're from Whitley Bay or Washington, Gateshead or Gisborough, or you're just fascinated by the spirit of the Northeast, join us as we natter with the best the Northeast has to offer. Welcome to the show, Sue.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Can you tell us a little bit about your journey to the Northeast? Because you're not originally from here, are you?
No, I'm not. I've just been recording some of my novel, and one of the people reading it said, "Oh, you haven't got a Geordie accent." I'm really disappointed. But no, sorry. Yeah, I was born in Sussex, good old sunny Worthing, Sussex by the sea. Left it as soon as I could, I must say. I migrated north over the last 40 years. I started off in London, so I went to West London Institute of Higher Education and trained to be a special needs teacher. I met my husband there. Well, he wasn't there, he was from Liverpool, but he came down to visit his sister and ended up stopping with me, as you do. And then I moved up to Liverpool to live with him in 1984, and we lived in Toxteth, and no one with a Toxteth address in 1984 could get a job. So he started applying for jobs using his parents' address in Harpenden, Hertfordshire, which was frightfully posh, and got an interview with ICI over on Teesside. So that was when we made the move from Liverpool to Teesside. I was teaching then in Hartlepool and Easington Colliery. And then we were living in Stockton-on-Tees, and then we moved to Upper Weardale. We found 2 derelict lead miners' cottages and an acre of land for not very much, and lived right at the top of Weardale for 15 years, had our 3 kids there, well, at Hexham Hospital. And then when they were in their teens, we moved to Northumberland. We did a house swap, actually. It's a funny old story, but we did a house swap with someone and ended up here, which is sort of down in the tropics after you've lived on a windy hill in Weardale. And we've been here 20 years now, in the South Tyne Valley, and absolutely love it. I wouldn't live anywhere else. That's it. I'm staying.
So I'm guessing you've got beautiful views, Sue.
Out of every single window you look, we've got beautiful views. Yes, we've got a little burn that runs through the garden. If you look, well, you can't see it because it's dark now, but if you look out of that window, there's a Bassel Farm, Willemswick Castle, Bassel Farm, beautiful. We're right by the South Tyne. There's the green bridge that goes over the South Tyne. Anyone who's read my book, The Rewilding of Molly McFlynn, will recognise all these places in it because I just use what's around here in my writing. It's an absolutely beautiful, we've got trees all around. It is very big hill if you want to go for a walk. It's quite steep, but yeah, it's beautiful.
So you've obviously had lots of inspiration from obviously all the views around you in Northumberland. Is there any specific place apart from where you live that you absolutely love up here?
Oh, definitely, yes, without a doubt. You've got the coast. I mean, it was when we first moved up here, so it'll have been 1985. We knew someone whose parents had one of those beach huts at Embleton on the golf course, and so 1985. That's what 39 years ago, and we stayed in there overnight. And we'd arrived in the dark and gone to the pub, as you do, and staggered over the golf course in the dark to when it was days before mobile phones and torches and little flashlights on them, but woke up in the morning in this place and opened the window and it's like, oh my God, look at this. And you've got Dunstanburgh Castle on the headland and that bay. I absolutely love that beach there. Love the northeast coast. I mean, I grew up in Worthing by the sea, so I love the sea, but Worthing's all sewage in the sea these days, dog poo and seaweed and stones. Who wants to go there? With the northeast coast, great if you've got a wetsuit. It's a little chilly, but yeah, I love that. I love the coast. Absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah, me too. I think it's probably the biggest thing that I miss about living away. It's just having the coast just so close and it's so beautiful, and just hearing the sound of the waves and everything like that. Just love it. So I agree with you on that one.
And miles and miles of sand, isn't it? Huge, great. Oh, sorry, I interrupted. Huge open spaces, miles and miles of sand. You go down south and it's just everyone's really squashed into a really tiny place because you've got the South Downs and you can't do anything else. And it's the spaces, isn't it? The big skies and the wild open spaces.
Yeah. It's the fresh air and like you say, the massive of space, and you just feel so free. I think, don't you? It's a lovely feeling.
Yeah, totally.
So you mentioned that you've worked your way up the country. What was it about the northeast that made you want to settle there?
We managed to get this house in Upper Weardale, as I said, for song. We quartered our income overnight, actually. My husband was working as a accountant in Sedgefield and I was teaching at the time, and we got jobs at Killop at the lead mining centre, part-time job, quartered our income overnight, but we just found we could manage. And it was the wild, as we've talked before, the wild open spaces, that freedom that we had that I've never felt anywhere else I lived. And the same living here, that the rugged beauty, the absolute rugged beauty, the friendliness of everyone. I remember I took my son when he was 2 back down to visit family, and we were on the tube going through London. And he's a little rural boy. He wasn't used to towns, and he's looking around and he says, "Them's funny barns, Mum. They're all squashed together." Looking at these, but then he starts to talking to all these people on the tube. "Hello, what are you doing?" And these people are literally like doing neck exercises, trying to avoid the gaze of this small child who was used to the northeast, where everybody talked to everybody. And I think even now, I'll go down and I'll strike up a conversation with someone on the train or on the bus, and they look at you as if you're completely barking mad. Friendly place, wide open skies, cheaper property. What more do you want?
Yeah, I think we're a different breed up here, I think, Sue.
Yes, and I'm very glad my 3 kids were born in Hexham.
Oh, bless. It's a good hospital, that, actually.
Yeah.
So what brought you to sort of inspire you to write? Have you always done that, or is it something that you've kind of done since you've moved here, or?
Yes and no. I think as a small child, I always thought I wanted to be a writer. I'd always promised myself I would be a writer by the time I was an old lady. I had this sort of vision of an old lady sitting at a desk writing her books, but I never thought that I could do that as a job. Um, I went into teaching, as I said, and had several years, well, 25 years off and on teaching in special schools. But I always wrote, I think, a lot as part of my work. I used to write a lot of dramas, sensory dramas. So, we're taught, we were told you had to teach the national curriculum, and a lot of these kids were very profoundly disabled, probably didn't know that was their own hand, never mind who an ancient Greek was. So you would have to write dramas to bring the world alive to the kids. Loved doing that. Then I had a breakdown around the age of 50. I think I know now it was probably a lot to do with the menopause, but at the time, no one talked about that. So I left teaching rather suddenly and really was in a bit of a pickle, didn't know what to do. But I started writing a blog, and it was called The Bridge Cottage Way, which sounds a bit like a religious cult. It isn't. It was about growing your own veg and living sustainably and seasonal eating, which is something, I've always been into. And this blog really grew and grew and grew and had a big fan base. And then I was in therapy, actually. It was a therapist who said to me, I think you should write more. I think, why don't you go and do, like and I said, oh, I'd love to write books, but, I could never do that. Oh, she said, why don't you go and do the MA in creative writing? And I said, well, I'm not clever enough to do an MA. That's like academic stuff, isn't it? And she said, don't be so... Well, actually, she said, I won't say the rude word, what she said, because we're on air, but she said a very rude word. And I then found out that you could get a student loan up to the age of 60 for an MA. And I'd already got my B.Ed from teaching. And so at 58, I applied to Newcastle Uni, never thinking I'd get in, to do the MA. And blow me down, I did get in. And that was just before the pandemic, 2019. So there I was, loving going to town, loving it, going on the train from Barden Mills, swinging my student lanyard round my neck, going in the student bars. And then it was lockdown, So that was that, really. We had a term's teaching, and then we all went back on our laptops and whatnot. And but that was when I started writing properly, and that was when this book that we talk about, The Rewilding of Molly McFlynn, was birthed, really, at uni.
That sounds great. I love the thought of just going back to university whenever you want and like just learning something that you've always wanted to learn. I think that's so
it was hard.
One day it'll be me.
It was really, really hard though. But I mean, I wrote an email to one of my tutors about 2 weeks in, and I just said, I can't do this, I'm not cut out for this. Because he'd asked me a question in lectures, and then I'd go home and on the train, and I was like, oh, I should have said that. Oh, I gave such a stupid answer. And a lot of the kids in the class were like straight out of 19, 20-year-olds, straight out of doing their uni. And I hadn't been to uni for 35 years at this point. I mean, I didn't know the technology. I didn't know that, in Word, you can put references and footnotes by pressing a button. I was there trying to find little symbols and put them in. Huge learning curve. And I just felt I didn't have the academic language that they all had. But the tutor, he said to me, Sue, he said, what you bring to the table is a lifetime of experience. You've got so many stories, and I have got a few stories, so many stories to tell, and that was so encouraging. And now I think, why did I ever have so much self-doubt? We have this imposter syndrome, don't we, that, we couldn't do, and I think as women, we have this particularly, I couldn't do that, but yeah, you jolly well can.
I was just going to say, you can do absolutely anything that you put your mind to.
You can. I mean, I think you've got to be able to be in a financial situation. Yeah, okay, I got a student loan, but I was running a little business called the Woolly Peddler. Another long story. I used to make wacky clothes out of recycled knitwear as the Woolly Peddler. And I announced to my husband one day, that's it, I'm giving that up. I'm going to go and be a student and do this. And he's like, what? You can't do that. But I did, and I think we had to be quite frugal. Obviously, we didn't have big foreign holidays and the like, but um, I was able to not work and go to uni and do that, and I think that's been a privilege. Not everybody is able to do that, are they?
So your new book, you've mentioned the title, The Rewilding of Molly Flynn. That's set
Molly Macflynn. Molly Macflynn.
Molly
There it is.
Macflynn. Molly,
Yeah,
oh, look at that. I love the
look at
cover.
that. Yeah, it's got shiny bits. I'm trying to do it so it's got shiny. It's not even back to front as well. I've just done a TikTok video. Honestly, how cool am I?
Wow.
And it was all back to front. I had to Google how to switch things round because all the lettering was back to front. Yes, the rewilding of Molly Macflynn. There she is. It is a nice cover, isn't it?
It's very beautiful. As soon as I saw the cover, I was like, "Oh, that looks lovely." It's just such an appealing book. It would be one that I would definitely pick off the shelf for sure.
Yes, and thanks to dear Waterstones, they've had it facing out for some time as well, which is absolutely wonderful of them. Thank you, Waterstones. Yes.
Very good. So where did the inspiration for this book come from? Did it's set in Northumberland, obviously you've been greatly inspired by the area, but what about, where did the story come from, and why did you choose to set it in Northumberland?
Okay. I think you write what you know. So to set it here where I live, I was able to bring all the detail in. We've got this iconic green bridge that goes over. It's not the Tyne Bridge. There's a little bridge that goes over the South Tyne here, and that to me was an ideal place to have a portal. So there's a time slip in this novel. There's a time slip back to the 1649 Newcastle witch trials, and the inspiration for that came from, I was in the garden one day picking some tulips, put my hand down on a little baby hare, on a leveret. I know we have loads of brown hares where I live here in the wilds, loads and loads of beautiful brown hares. And I wanted to bring the hare into the story, and I started researching around hares, the folklore around hares, and I discovered the witches were said to shapeshift into hares at the full moon. So I started looking at witches and what have you. And I learnt about the witch trials. So of course now we're looking at people who weren't witches, but were victims of suspicion and gossip, and the hundreds and hundreds of women, mainly, some were men, who were murdered in the sort of 16th, 17th century on accusations of witchcraft, which then led me to the Newcastle witch trials. And one of my I've got a big following on Facebook and whatnot at Sue Reed Writes. And one of my followers said, there's a project called the Memorial Spoon Project that you can ask for a particular name of one of the women that was murdered during these times. So I said, have you got any of the Newcastle women? Because if you go to the archives up at Woodhorn Colliery, you can see the list of the 15 women and one man who were hung on the town moor. And I got Anne Watson. So Anne Watson is written into this book because I wanted to elevate the name of a woman from history whose name's just been buried. We know nothing about Anne Watson. There's just a name on a list. All it says is Anne Watson, witch. And she wasn't a witch. She was just a victim of gossip and the times and fear and whatnot. So that's a long-winded answer to your question, wasn't it? Because it's sort of in three bits, isn't it? It's about nature and a return to nature and a return to living sustainably, and Molly's rewilded in that sense. So that comes from my own way of life and my own living. There's the Newcastle witch trials that came from as a result of discovering a leveret, but into the research and what have you. And there's this idea of true friendship and not having to create a false self to fit in. And I think I've always been a little bit of an outsider in lots of ways. We were hippies in the hills. And I think as well, which sort of leads us back to the beginning, coming as a southerner up into the northeast, I felt like an outsider. It's been quite hard. It's taken a lot of years to actually feel this is home, because I didn't want to live down south, but I sounded different. I know when I got my first teaching job in Liverpool, I used to pretend to talk Scouse because I was so ashamed of my southern accent. I used to read Chicken Lickin' and Turkey Lurkey, and I must have sounded ridiculous. And even now, when I'm, I said to you lot, oh, I'll come on Geordie Pride, but I haven't got Geordie accent. And, sometimes you find that's a disability. That isn't, I'm quite ashamed sometimes of my southernness. I know when I went to Easington Colliery, I got my job there in 1985. So it was the year after the miners' strike. And there I was, 22, 23, with my posh southern accent that stuck out like a complete sore thumb. And I mean, it was great. And we, I got to know the community. We used to go to PMP, Kayleys and whatnot, but it took a while for me to be accepted. There was a bit of, oh, she's a southerner, stuck up. And, I had to sort of say to people, well, just because that's where my mum and dad from, I'm not stuck up in the slightest, but I talk like this. And it doesn't matter how much I try, it's still here.
Did you find it hard to kind of understand what we're saying at first, or could you kind of get the dialect?
I do remember when I was teaching, I was sent to a course at the Rising Sun Centre. That's Wallsend Way, isn't it? And I got lost, and it was the days before we had sat-navs and Google Maps. It was a long time ago, and I stopped and asked this gadgie in the street where the Rising Sun Centre was. I had no idea what he said back to me. I just went, all right, thank you very much. Wound back the window. I had no idea what the guy was saying to me, but he was broad as anything. So not generally, no, it's not a problem.
Was he saying something like, you can't do in there, pet?
No, I would have got that. It was, God knows what he was saying.
Oh dear me, sometimes you need subtitles.
Yeah, definitely. Absolutely, definitely.
I do have to say I love the Scouse accent though.
Yes, and the Scouse mentality, and it's a great city to live in. It was edgy in 1984, living in Toxteth. It was edgy, but I've got dear friends from those days that I keep in touch with. And as Tim and I, it was before kids. We had wild times there. We had some amazing parties and good times. Yeah, good times.
I know a lot of people actually draw a lot of comparisons between the Northeast and Liverpool. Can you see your similarity?
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, a sense of humour, a generosity of spirit. Times have been tough as well. There's the social economic side of things as well. Yeah, I can see a similarity. Yeah, like both places.
Can you tell us a little bit more about your book as well, Sue? Like, why did you decide to call it that title? A little bit more about the characters?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, sure. So it starts with Molly. Molly's 15, and Molly's sent to live with her Bohemian grandparents in the wilds of Northumberland. She's been getting into a bit of a pickle. I don't think it's too much of a spoiler to say she was caught shoplifting in town from H&M. A friend set her up to it, and she's got this big gang of friends who we as readers quickly learn that they're not real friends, that they're not being very nice. Molly doesn't realise it at first. She's trying desperately to fit in with these group of friends. Her mum's a nurse at the RVI on the COVID ward, and it's just at that time, March 2020, when COVID was really starting to bite and Molly's sent to live with her nan and granddad for just 5 days. Mum's just like, would you just get out of here for 5 days? You can come back for your birthday. Molly thinks she's going to Wagamama's for a birthday and getting a belly button pierced and meeting her friends. And then Boris announces lockdown. Well, Molly's furious. The food's inedible. Nan's picking wild garlic and making pesto with it. She's doing weird things in the garden at night, is Nan. There's no Wi-Fi. Her friends have abandoned her. And life takes a new direction when Molly meets a homeless girl in the woods. Molly stomps off with the dog, and walking through the woods, she meets this homeless girl. She's not very nice to her at first. She calls her a bit of a minger and sort of bitches about her a bit. But she soon sort of strikes a friendship up with this girl. And we learn that the girl's on the run from the Newcastle witch trials, that she's come through a portal, and her mum, Anne Watson's, being banged up in jail. So I won't give any more spoilers other than tragedy strikes to someone in the family. Molly's got to stand up for not only what's happening with Martha and help her get back to Newcastle. She's also got to stand up for what's right in the community, help heal some family rifts, and come to the rescue in a moment of peril. So that's sort of a garbled synopsis. It was written primarily for young adults, because when you write a book, they want to know what shelf to put it on in Waterstones. But it's found a massive crossover readership. I think probably because a lot of my followers are older women from the old Woolly Peddler days, and so they followed me over, and a lot of them have been really loyal. But Nan's quite a character in the book, and I think a lot of women, older women, are identifying with Nan. She's a mixture of me, my dear Nan, who was my best buddy in life, me other Nan, and a big dollop of fiction. So I think she's quite a character. There's Molly. There's Grandad. He's a mix of my granddad, my husband, my son. I think when you write characters, I bring bits of people I know and some fiction. You get a bit carried away and bring some fiction into it. It's been published 4 months today. It came out October the 28th last year, and it's done really well. It's on like 5th print run. Waterstones have put it throughout the north, not just the northeast, throughout the north. My local bookshop, Cogito Books, just give them a shout out because they're absolutely blooming brilliant. I've just done Annex Story Fest, so book for my first book festival, which was a bit scary, but great fun nonetheless. So I'm going into schools. I'm going to go into Hexham High School and Hexham Middle School on World Book Day and talk about that. We play a bit of a game in schools. It's a bit like Traitors, where they've got to identify townsfolk from witches and single people out. So that goes down well. And I think, I lost the plot when I was teaching. I had my breakdown, and it's really lovely for me to come full circle now and go back in schools. And it's like coming home. I absolutely love being in front of a class and working with students. So that's been lovely.
Your book sounds amazing. I think I'm going to have to get that too.
Oh, that would be great. Yeah. I can say, if anyone goes to my website, I can send out a signed copy. That's what I'm doing from suereadwrites.co.uk. But it's everywhere. If you have to use that thing that begins with an A, it's there. Did you know, as a writer, you get about £1.41 from a book if it's bought on Amazon? But people are leaving reviews, and that is really important. That really helps authors. So if anyone does get it from your local bookshop, Waterstones, Amazon, or me, it would be great if you could leave a review as well. If you enjoy it. If you didn't like it, don't bother. We don't want 2-star reviews. Thank you very much.
Have you got plans for a second book, Sue, or have you got anything?
Yes. I've got plans for a trilogy or maybe a quartet. We'll see how it goes. Yes, definitely. In fact, I'm in the middle of writing book 2 now. I'm up to chapter 5. So in the next book, let me say without giving too much away, Molly is dealing with grief. She's had a death, and it's about grief, hope, and action, and brings in tree preservation. So there are 2 trees in Molly's life that are very, very important to her. One of them she can't bear to be around because there's memories tied up in it, and another one that sees her fleeing on the AD 122 bus towards, and can you guess which tree that might be? The Sycamore Gap tree. So I'm bringing in the felling of Sycamore Gap, which I think's like I wrote about COVID in this last one. I like to sort of write about an important time so that the feelings of that time are preserved. And I was in Hexham the day the tree at Sycamore Gap went down, and I want to write about the feelings of that. But from that, bring out hope and action. And this is Molly becoming an activist. She's going to be the Greta Thunberg of the Northeast by the time I've finished with her.
Oh, I love that. I love the themes that you bring into it as well, all the sustainability and everything like that. And
well, it's my life. It's what I'm really into. I was quite militant in my younger days. I used to hitch up to London and protest in Trafalgar Square about this, that, and the other. And I do believe in protecting the planet and doing what we can do to stave off the climate crisis. So that will always be, they will always have an environmental message, and they will also always have a time flip. So I think we're going to have Molly going back to that cusp of the Romans and the Iron Age, when the Romans were starting to build the wall, but the Iron Age villages were under threat. So we'll bring that. But we also see Molly grow. So in this one, she's a little bit older. She's 15, 16 in this one. There it is. It's hard, back to front. But she'll be 17, 18 in the next one. So she's growing up as the books come out. And then there's a third one in mind, and that'll be about urban flooding, the reintroduction of beavers, and a camper van trip gone wrong with her mum and a new boyfriend. So I'm quite looking forward to writing that one. It's going to be fun.
That sounds amazing. I love the fact that you're weaving in a lot of the like iconic landmarks as well. I think it's someone from the region. It's just so nice for someone to be able to focus in on those and be like, oh, I know where she's talking about, and it helps you visualize it really well.
Certainly. I mean, I had someone message me just a couple of days ago to say, are you writing about Williamswick Castle? And I'm like, yeah, actually it is. She said, oh, I nearly bought a house in the village. Like, oh, I love that. I love that place so much. But I think on the flip side, maybe this is one of the reasons this book isn't being picked up down south as much. I struggled to I didn't get an agent. I tried to get it agented. This is partnership published, because it's got a northern voice in this, I feel, and it is about the north. I'm a northern, although I'm from Sussex, I count myself as a northern writer. And I think the publishing industry is very London-centric. And, 3 cheers for all the publishers that are doing what they do in the north, but we're underrepresented. But I will keep writing about the north, because this is where I live and this is where my stories are from, and this is how I bring detail and, a sense. Someone said I write with a great sense of place. Well, I write about the place where I am.
I love that. And it's how do you see that there's that big divide from a writing point of view? Can you see, are there any ways around that, do you feel? Like, is there anything differently that we need to be doing up in the north?
I don't think it's us with the problem, do you? I think we're doing what we do very well. It's for the rest of everyone to wake up and realise that, we don't all have to write books that, happen within the M25 corridor. No, we keep doing what we're doing, and we keep getting the words out there and championing the north and the northeast with our stories. Yeah,
I agree. Definitely. You mentioned Sycamore Gap. That's going to be featured in your second book. What were your thoughts when that happened? Because obviously, as someone from the area, it was an immediate shock to a lot of people, and myself and Angela are included in that.
Yeah.
But I kind of got a feeling listening to news around here where I live in West Yorkshire, a lot of people are a bit like, well, why the bothered about it? It's just a tree. Have you got what were your thoughts when it happened?
Sure. And in fact, that comment, it's just a tree, I write on Substack, and I wrote an essay about it just a day or so after it ran, and I said, my subtitle was, it is not just a tree. This was an iconic symbol of Northumberland. This was Northumberland, this tree. It's like if someone blew up the Tyne Bridge, someone wouldn't be, just a bridge, but no, that's a massive symbol of the town and Newcastle and that. So where we live here, if you just walk out the house and up the hill a little bit, you can see Sycamore Gap. And isn't it ironic it was called Sycamore Gap? Because it's like a 7-year-old's mouth, isn't it? It's like losing a tooth. It's lost its tree. I went to Hexham I went shopping in Hexham the day it was felled. At first, when we first started seeing the pictures, we thought it was like a photoshopped joke or something. It wasn't real. Couldn't believe it. Went into Hexham. I went into the towns on the back street in Hexham, and people were talking about it. And there was a man sitting at the table, and he said, "I've been crying this morning." And then the waitress got up, and she went. You could hear her in the toilet sobbing. People were really grieving about this. And also, one of the people that was arrested and subsequently let off lived just a few farms away. So it was to me, it was like a dark film, like wraiths in the night, sort of in the air, this darkness, this black, this anger. People were so angry, but grieving as well, so shocked. The guy from Northumberland Park's trying to do his telly broadcast. You could hear his voice catching, as you know, as he was trying to do it. It was awful. And I'm not sure they're ever going to find out who did that. There was a young lad blamed. First of all, a 16-year-old was put in custody. He was released. There was the farmer over the way. He was released. Now, they're apparently got 2 other guys, but we've not heard a peep. Not heard a peep, so I don't know. Yeah, absolutely tragic. But I hope it's raised awareness, and this is what I want to write about our natural world and how important it is, and about trees that, you know, might have a tree preservation order on, but keep getting felled. I mean, there's a talk, isn't there, in towns of trees that are getting felled by building firms, because this is what I'm writing about in the book. Because they're in the way and what have you. We need them. The wildlife needs them. All the habitat that it is for all the little creatures and insects and things, you know. We need these trees. We need our wildlife. And we're going to get more and more flooding the more we just get rid of everything and have bare hilltops and bare fields and things. So, yeah, it is important.
I feel for the people who've got loads of memories there as well. People have been engaged there. People have got ashes there.
Absolutely.
Come from far and wide to visit it, and it's just yeah, I was gutted when I heard about it. I thought it was a Photoshop thing.
Yeah.
No,
it was terrible.
About it.
Yeah. I've just written the scene where Molly's had her first kiss on Sycamore Gap tree. She's got a lovely boyfriend in this story, and they've given each other Tree of Life necklaces under the tree. I'm going to give too much away here. I'm terrible. Shush. It's not published yet.
Giving it away. So being in Northumberland, obviously you get a lot of inspiration for your writing. What is it, do you think, that fuels that inspiration? What is it about the surroundings?
It's got to be the natural environment to me. It's got to be where I live here. I mean, during lockdown, and I walked down, we've got a lane, and I walked the same lane every day for days, and it was never boring. There was something to bring into my writing every day, whether it was the slow bushes erupting into blossom, or the hawthorn, or the birds, or just the beauty, and the beauty of the wilderness here in Northumberland is just precious to me, and something I'll always want to write about, I think, until I find something else to write about. But yeah, for the time being, yeah, absolutely inspirational.
I don't blame you. Yeah, it's just, it is so, I think whenever I go home, I always feel, I suppose it is kind of like you get a little bit lost in your imagination, because living down here, it's much busier, and a beautiful part of the country still. I love it down here, but there's a lot more what I would call noise. But when I go back home and I'm on the coast, like we just went up for a walk along the beach on Saturday on the Sugar Sands, and I just felt so calm and relaxed, and it goes back to that, like I felt so mindful, and just my imagination was firing off in different directions. And yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, I do. I think I do.
Just do it.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of writing and getting things on paper, and I could imagine just being constantly in that environment, and being able to have that on your doorstep is just such an inspiration.
It's an inspiration, and it's a privilege. You know, I come out of my front door, and, you know, we've been in this house now 20 years. I never take it for granted. It's always like, wow, I am so lucky to live here and to see this. You know, when some people live in cities and all they can see is concrete, you know, and you have to make a real effort to go to the park to see a blade of grass. You know, so lucky to live here.
Yeah, I think so. And on that note, actually, before we dive into some quick fire questions, if anyone was thinking about moving up to the northeast, what would you say to them? What advice would you give them?
Don't all come, or it's going to be tuck your vest in. You're going to need a vest or a wetsuit if you're going to think. No, I mean, as someone who's moved north of the thing, I wouldn't live anywhere else. I think it's so absolutely phenomenal place to live. Yeah, just do it. Follow your dreams and do it. Property's a bit cheaper up here than down south too. Yeah, but no, not every. We don't want everyone. You can't all come. You know, just some of you.
Should we
Yeah, keep it
dive
minimal.
into the questions? I think, Haley. Shall we
Yeah,
go for the quick
okay.
fire ones?
Yeah, we've got some quick fire questions for you, Sue. So these are questions where just answer the first thing that comes to mind. Don't give them a lot of thought, and just let's see how we get on. But are you
That's
ready?
terrifying. Yeah, okay. Ready as I'll ever be.
Right, I've got the first one, Sue. So, number one thing you love living. Well, you love about living in the northeast. I'll put my teeth in.
Big skies and wide open spaces. That was 2. Sorry.
That works. we'll accept it.
Ever the rebel.
Next one is, what is your favourite book? You can't say your own.
David Armand Skellig. Have you read Skellig by David Armand? You must know David Armand. Northeast children's writer. Very famous. Well, obviously not that famous. And have I got it here? No, I haven't. He wrote a book, Skellig, Skellig, Skellig. David comes from Hebburn Way. His books are rooted in the Northeast, and he is a Geordie, unlike me, who's an infiltrator. He wrote Skellig. He's written one called he's written loads and loads and loads and loads and loads of children's books. Look up David Armand, like the nut, Almond. But David Armand Skellig, beautiful book. Young adult book, but very good for adults. Lovely layers in it. Similar sort of things with Molly. You know, you're not quite sure what it is that's worked the magic. A little bit of magical realism, but very rooted in the Northeast.
Oh, maybe we can guess the best.
You might do. You never know.
Next question, Sue. What is your favourite Geordie saying?
Oh, Shy Bairns Getting Out.
Good one.
Love it. That's one of my favourites as well.
I use that quite a lot on Twitter with a hashtag when I'm being cheeky and contacting magazines and newspapers and things.
Yeah, exactly. We were just having a conversation about that the other day, actually, and it's a great saying, but it's actually a really good philosophy as well. And I think it's definitely something we all need to live by.
Well, it is. I mean, just very, very quickly, as you know, my publisher sort of said to me, "Oh, you can't ring bookshops yourself. You know, that's our job. We do that." And I thought, well, I'm not having that. So I've been ringing bookshops, and I don't know if you're a bit young, probably, but do you remember that advert for Yellow Pages with J.R. Hartley? And he rings up and he says, "Oh, hello, do you have such and such Fly Fishing by J.R. Hartley?" And they go, "Oh, yes, sir, we've got that in stock. You know, who shall I reserve from?" "It's J.R. Hartley." So I ring up and say, "Oh, hello, have you got the Rewilding of Molly McFlynn in stock?" And they go on their computer and they look it up on the screen and they see the cover on the warehouse. "Oh, that's a nice cover. No, we haven't, but we might be getting it in. Can we order it for you?" And I go, "Well, no, not really, because I'm Sue Reed and I'm the author." And I go, "Ha, Shy Bairns Getting Out." And then get it in the shop.
Oh, excellent. That's the way to do it, though, Sue.
Well, if you don't ask, you don't get, do you?
Exactly. Great philosophy. Next question. Physical book or Kindle?
Physical book. However, we've got a camper van, and I'm always getting told off about weight. You know, I'll go out with a stack of 6 books, and he's like, "Well, you can't read." So we're hoping to go to France in the camper van in the summer, and I will be taking a Kindle to that. I bought my mum one. My mum's in her mid-80s, and she said she couldn't see the page. So I can't read anymore. I can't see the pages. So I bought her a Kindle so she can enlarge it to 2 words a side, but she can't work that either. So I've got the Kindle back, and I've got one now. But yeah, physical book any day. Yeah.
Next question. What's your favourite local dish?
Used to love a Stottie pizza from the Jolly Fisherman in Craster. It's gone posh now. I don't know whether they do Stottie pizzas anymore, but yeah, Stottie pizza. Stotties are great.
Do you know what? I've never had a Stottie pizza. I've had a Stottie and I've had a pizza, but never both the same.
Well, honestly, and there's me, the southerner. Great. No, it was this pub. It was a Jolly. Do you know the Jolly Fisherman in Craster? That we always used to go over there and take the kids and have a Stottie pizza. Yeah.
Oh, I think we're going to have a little look at that. I've had peas pudding and ham on Stottie, but never a pizza.
Yeah. I love peas pudding, but peas pudding's not traditionally northeast, is it?
Oh, I thought it was.
Is it? It might be. It might be.
Who knows? Let's not say it just in case.
It's more Yorkshire, isn't it? Don't know. It's Stottie pizza. Let's stick with the Stottie. Stotties are northeast, aren't they? Stottie pizza. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I've not same as Angela. I've not had love a Stottie because you don't get Stotties down in Yorkshire. It really upsets us. So anytime I go home, I go and find a bakery or Greg's and I buy Stotties.
Yeah,
and I just eat them as they are. Like I just don't bother putting anything in them.
Yeah. No, we bought some Stottie when we were away in the van. We like to have an egg and bacon in a bun. And we bought some Stotties, and I'm sick of you go and get like white bread rolls and that, and they always taste sweet. They've got like this, Pammy, but the Stotties we had at the weekend, well, they were absolutely delicious. And Stottie pizza. If you're making a Stottie pizza, you want to like grill the top, toast it a little bit. Otherwise, the tomato sauce goes in and it goes a bit claggy in the middle. But yeah, there you go.
I'm going to give that a go. Thank you.
Pizza,
I'm all hungry now.
Yeah.
And the last one is, what does Geordie Pride mean to you in 3 words? And I think it's quite interesting since you're not officially a born and bred Geordie, but for you as an adopted Geordie, what does it mean to you?
Geordie, what does it mean to me? Championing the beauty of what we have here. I'm not going to give a very good answer for that, am I? It's about having pride in place to me, because I'm not born and bred here, so I don't have like family and all that tradition, but it's pride of place. Yes, I'm going to say pride of place for that answer.
Love it. And I think that fits really well with what you've talked about this evening as well, and just about how the location inspires you and how much you've used that in your writing as well. So perfect answer.
Thank you. Phew.
Lovely. So just to wrap up, is there anything else that you want to share with our listeners? Any upcoming projects, or you mentioned the Annick Fest, are there any other festivals or events coming up that you'll be attending?
I'm doing school events, so if there's anyone listening who's in a school and would like me to come in and do an author visit, I don't charge, I'll come in. As long as the kids get the chance to buy one of my books, I'll come in and talk to your students. Do that. I'm hopping up to the Borders soon to go to the bookshops there and do a signing. So if there's any local bookshops that want me to come in and do a signing, that would be great. I'm hoping to pull something together for the summer. The anniversary of the hanging of the women on the town moor was the 21st of August. So I'm hoping to pull something together, possibly lit and fill, but something to pull together to celebrate that. That's about all coming up, I think, at the moment. Oh, I've got one in Stanhope. I've got the Stanhope Book Festival, but that's not till October. That's booked in at the minute. So if there's any book festivals want to have me, I'll happily come. If people want to follow me, my social media is Sue Reed Writes across everything. You can follow me there, and as I say, you can get my book anywhere where you get your books, or from me, and I'll sign it for you and put a dedication in. If you want it for your, I don't know, your niece Emily or something, I can write that in the book as well. There's a space on the website when you order to stick that in the box.
Oh, that's so lovely. Thank you, Sue. And we'll add all of those links into the show notes as well. So go and follow Sue and check out her book as well. And when do you think your second book will be out?
Well, if I go down this route, so this was partnership published with the Book Guild, and they're quite quick at getting them out. I need to finish writing it, which will take me to the summer. They'll need to be proofread and edited and then pitched again. And if this publisher pick it out, what I would like for it was to come out on the anniversary of the felling of Sycamore Gap next September. That might be pushing it, though. We might have to, it might be like the following spring. So it would be 2025/26. But if I pull my finger out, we might be able to get 2025.
Very exciting.
Good luck with it, Sue. I'm sure you'll do a fantastic job with it.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Love it. And everyone look out for that second book from Sue. But thank you so much for joining us on Geordie Pride. We've loved chatting to you. And yeah, everyone go follow Sue and give her a hi and say that you've listened to her on the podcast. And yeah.
That's great. Thank you for having me both. Been lovely chatting.
Thank you. Bye. Thanks so much for listening. If you've enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support Geordie Pride further, then don't forget to subscribe, share it with others, post about it on social media, or leave a rating and review. To catch all the latest from us, you can follow us on Instagram @Geordie Pride. Until next time, keep that Geordie Pride shining bright.